For BBC Essex, our reporter Richard Martin has been to a garage somewhere in Essex to meet Alan Keeper. He's the managing director of a company that supplies surveillance equipment to local councils. The company is called Pakatak Limited.
There's all sorts of different covert surveillance equipment available on the market now, and more increasing every day. These remote wildlife cameras that are used primarily in fly tipping areas, basically a small box with infrared night vision, motion sensors. Looking down onto the next shelf, you've got cameras built into pens, ideal for interview recording, cameras in key fobs, cameras in USB memory sticks that can be left on a desk in an office, cameras built into watches that will record video and audio at the touch of a button.
Well, let's just have a quick look at this watch, because I find this remarkable. I've got it in my hands, and it looks like a diving watch. I mean, the camera itself, I can't see it.
Yeah, so the lens is actually built into the point just where the number 6 is.
I mean, just to explain, it's got sort of holes where all the hours are, and then one of those holes is the camera.
Is where the lens is. Basically, it's a pinhole lens, and like I say, a touch of a button on the side of the watch, and you're recording video and audio. It can be scary what's out on the market, and lots of new customers coming to the website will think, I can't believe what you can get, and you can get pretty much whatever you want.
What sort of customers are you having? What sort of organisations are coming to?
Pretty much anyone you can think of, ranging from councils, local authorities, police authorities, down to shopkeepers, people worried about relatives in care homes, people worried about their nannies or cleaners in any sort of in their home. Pretty much anyone you could think of could possibly have a need for covert surveillance at some point.
I imagine this would be absolutely ideal for someone who thought maybe their partner was cheating on them. But to use, say, a spy phone, which I know you can get, where you can monitor calls and text message, that moves into invasion of privacy and illegality, doesn't it? How do you sell these things when you know that maybe they're not being used for legal means?
I try and think about the 99% when these covert cameras and CCTV cameras are doing things for the good rather than the bad. I'd never sort of sweep under the carpet that at times they're used for things that they shouldn't be, but primarily this sort of kit is used to build evidence against someone or for anything. For instance, we mentioned earlier about care homes. These cameras are put in care homes, maybe on an elderly relative's bedside table. Through customer feedback, we know this, they've found that the treatment wasn't good, and that can only be a good thing that that's been discovered.
You mentioned public authorities. Without going into details, obviously in your business you don't want to, but you're having several authorities coming towards you. What sort of things do they use, and why do they use them?
Primarily, the authorities, certainly the councils, tend to use these sort of cameras for either fly tipping areas where they're worried that it is or might be going on, or anywhere in properties that they own, perhaps council houses. Housing associations use the kit as well, where there could be vandalism and they need to firstly find out who or where it's happening and then perhaps clamp down on it.
As I talk to you, I've got one of these trackers in my hands, maybe smaller than a pack of cigarettes, and that would be attached to a car. It's incredible what the public has access to.
It really is, and it's increasing all the time. You can pretty much find anything you might want with a camera in it these days. It can be scary. I like to think it's often used for good purposes.
Alan Keeper there, Managing Director of the company Pakatak Limited, speaking to Richard Martin for BBC Essex. Castle Point and Thurrock councils didn't respond to our request for a comment. There's always someone looking at you, and that's what we've been saying for the last couple of days. But is it altogether such a bad thing?